In comic books, you can usually count on the superhero to defeat the villain and lock them up before they manage to do too much damage. But sometimes the villain actually wins, and does so in a way that leaves the hero completely devastated. Welcome to Top 10 Nerd. I'm Andrew Boyd, and today we will be taking a look at the top 10 devastating superhero defeats. Let's get started right away, beginning with a few defeats that are awful, but aren't canon to the main universes. Number 10. DCeased Batman. In the DCeased universe, the world is infected with an anti-life virus that infects people and turns them into zombies when they look at a screen. This story is apocalyptic in nature, so naturally there are a lot of brutal moments of heroes being killed by the zombie hordes. Probably the most devastating of them is what happens to the Bat family. Nightwing and Tim Drake are infected by the virus and go to Wayne Manor and attack Batman and Alfred. They bite the Dark Knight, infecting him. Alfred is forced to put down Dick and Tim with a shotgun, and Batman tries to slow the infection by getting into one of Mr. Freeze's cryosuits. He puts together a package for Damian containing a batsuit for him and turns. Alfred is forced to put him down with a shotgun and leaves the cave, thinking about how he had to put an end to 3 of his children. To make things even worse, in a later story in this universe, it is discovered that there is actually a cure for the virus, and Alfred has to grapple with the fact that he killed his sons when they could have been saved. Number 9. Old Man Logan. On Earth 800,007,128, where the Old Man Logan story takes place, Captain America's old foe, the Red Skull, managed to organize all of the Earth's supervillains and used them to defeat all of the heroes of their world and take over the United States. As he explained to a dying Captain America, Abomination was given California, although a crazed Hulk gang would eventually take this over. Dr. Doom was given the Bible Belt, and Magneto was given Las Vegas, although this was eventually taken over by the Kingpin. Red Skull took over the White House and installed himself as dictator. Worst of all was how the villains defeated the X-Men. Wolverine was monitoring the situation with Jubilee when the X-Mansion was suddenly attacked by supervillains. As the children fled, Wolverine made a brave final stand against the bad guys, cutting them down one at a time until there were none left. It was then that Mysterio revealed that the whole thing had been an illusion, and Logan had been attacking his own teammates the entire time. This was so devastating that Logan walked away from the situation due to his guilt, letting the villains take over and vowing to never pop his claws again. Number 8. Injustice Superman. One of the most devastating defeats that we've ever seen is the one that broke Superman's spirit and turned him from a hero into a villain. In the world featured in the Injustice games and comics, the Joker has become bored with dealing with Batman and decides to try his luck going up against the Man of Steel. Joker brainwashed Superman into destroying Metropolis as well as Lois Lane and his unborn child. This caused Superman to snap and set aside all the morality that he was known for, and he brutally killed the Joker. This began a chain reaction of events that led to Superman deciding to punish all of the criminals and reshape the world in his image, becoming more unhinged and violent the more power he seized, eventually becoming a full-on dictator, who Batman was forced to fight with an insurgency. The Joker may not have survived his encounter with Superman, but the fact that he was able to make him destroy everything he loved, break his moral code, and turn into the very thing he was fighting against, plunging the world into a horrifying dystopia, makes this a pretty good win for the Clown Prince of Crime. This Old Man Logan and the Deceased entry would normally rank higher, but as none of these events are canon to the main universe, I've decided to keep them at the bottom of the list so we can focus on defeats that actually happened. Number 7. Alpha Flight Number 12. When the villainous Jerome Jackson discovered that his old employee who had ruined his life, James Hudson, was now a superhero leading Canada's super team Alpha Flight, he vowed revenge and sold Hudson's identity to the evil Roxxon Corporation, who gave him the resources to form the villain team Omega Flight, whose only purpose was to kill Hudson. They set a trap for James, tricking him into moving to New York for a job and then attacking him. Jackson attacked Guardian using the box robot, but Guardian managed to use his suit's power supply to overload the robot, killing Jackson. However, this caused Guardian's suit to overload and blow up, setting him on fire right in front of his wife, Heather. This was obviously deeply traumatic for Heather and the team, and they actually disbanded for a time as a result of this loss. Even when Hudson returned to life a few years later, things were never really the same for him, with his relationship to his wife being consistently strained as a result of his untimely death. So this is a superhero defeat that has defined the character's entire life going forward, coloring it with an inescapable misery. Number 6. The death of Gwen Stacy. For a lot of his early run as the Green Goblin, Norman Osborn had no memories of his criminal activities, due to the Goblin being a separate personality. Green Goblin tangled with Spider-Man several times over the years, with Goblin eventually swearing to bring misery and pain into Spider-Man's life as revenge for always stopping his schemes. He eventually was able to follow Spidey and watch him change in an alley, discovering that he was really Peter Parker. Osborn eventually became aware of his Goblin side and embraced it, and concocted a scheme to ruin Spider-Man's life. It's not actually a particularly complicated scheme when you think about it. In Amazing Spider-Man number 121, the Green Goblin kidnapped Peter's girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, and then threw her off of a bridge. Spider-Man managed to snag her with a web, but the whiplash caused by her sudden stop caused her to break her neck. So, the Goblin achieved his goal of causing Peter as much pain as possible. Number 5. The death of Superman. When a brutal and savage creature called Doomsday came to Earth, he had only one thing on his mind: destruction. He destroyed a small town and tore through the Justice League as they attacked him. No matter what was thrown at him, Doomsday would not go down. It soon became clear, as Doomsday continued to shrug off attacks, that this was a job for Superman. Superman went up against the creature as Metropolis bore the brunt of the damage. Doomsday was so powerful that Superman had to use the full force of his powers without holding back at all. He took an incredible beating, but managed to kill the creature in the end. Unfortunately, he had taken so much damage while doing so that he passed away in the arms of a distraught Lois Lane. So really, this fight is more of a tie when you think about it. The world was devastated at the loss of Superman as they mourned their hero in a massive funeral and wondered what would become of them now. Perhaps the most devastating element of this affair was that Superman's parents, John and Martha Kent, weren't able to attend their son's funeral as his secret identity would be compromised, and because Superman was entombed at a Metropolis memorial, they were unable to bury their son and instead had to bury a few of Clark Kent's possessions instead. Number 4. A death in the family. The Joker has made a long career of making Batman miserable by racking up massive body counts while enacting twisted schemes to bring Gotham City to its knees. Batman is usually able to stop the Joker before he achieves his ultimate goal, but sometimes the Clown Prince of Crime gets the better of the Dark Knight. The most infamous example of this was when the Joker captured the second Robin, Jason Todd. He beat him with a crowbar and left him in a warehouse that was rigged to explode. Batman almost got there in time to save Jason, but Robin was blown to smithereens. Batman tried to arrest the Joker, but in a bizarre twist, because the Joker was acting as the ambassador to Iran at the time, he was not charged with the crime due to diplomatic immunity. Batman did stop the Joker from completing his plan to gas the UN, but considering that Batman considers losing Jason his greatest failure, that kinda makes it the Joker's greatest win. And considering how much trauma the incident caused Jason once he returned to life, and the fact that it drove him to become a murderous vigilante whose relationship with Batman is tense at best as a result, it has been a long-lasting and fruitful victory for the Ace of Knaves known as the Joker, and a bitter defeat for the Dark Knight. Number 3. The Ultimatum Wave. In Ultimatum, Magneto has been driven mad at the loss of his children, and decides that rather than destroying humanity in order to make the world safe for mutants, he's just gonna kill everyone. He uses a doomsday device and his powers to shift the world off of its axis, causing disasters all over the globe. Much of Europe, including all of Latveria, is frozen under a layer of ice, and New York is hit by a massive tidal wave. Millions of people all over the world die in the attack, including Nightcrawler and Hank McCoy. Magneto then sends out more of his minions to destroy the heroes, causing the brutal deaths of several more heroes, including Hank Pym, Doctor Strange, and Thor, just to name a few. The most devastating moment is when Pym finds his wife Janet being eaten by the Blob, and responds by entering his giant man form, picking up the Blob and biting his head off. Professor X gets personally murdered by Magneto, and all seems lost. The The heroes are eventually able to stop Magneto from destroying the rest of the world, but the initial defeat caused millions of deaths of both heroes and civilians, and the resulting anti-mutant sentiment and pain of the survivors changed things in the Ultimate Universe forever. Number 2. Watchmen's Giant Squid. In the Watchmen universe, created by Alan Moore, superheroes were outlawed and the United States and Russia are at the brink of nuclear war. The smartest man alive, Adrian Veidt, formerly the hero Ozymandias, came up with a plan to save the world at the cost of millions of lives. He cloned the brain of a murdered psychic and created a giant psychic squid which he planned to teleport into New York, where it would kill millions of people with a psychic attack, making the world think that they were under attack by aliens, causing them to unite against a common threat. It's slightly more complicated than that, but it's kind of hard to explain, and frankly, you should just read Watchmen if you haven't already. His plan was uncovered by the heroes of the book, who went to Veidt's Arctic palace to confront him and try and stop him, but after explaining his evil plan, he clarified that he had already enacted his plan 35 minutes prior, and that they were too late to stop him. In order to preserve the peace that had been brought about as a result, the heroes were forced to go along with the charade that Ozymandias had concocted. Number 1. Green Lantern loses a planet. In the Cosmic Odyssey series, when the anti-life equation became a sentient creature, it split itself into 4 pieces. These anti-life aspects each went to a different planet, forcing Darkseid and Highfather to team up with Earth's heroes in order to stop them. Martian Manhunter and the Green Lantern John Stewart were sent to the planet Xanshi to deal with the threat and defuse a planet-destroying bomb. The two tracked down the explosive, but feeling that Martian Manhunter was out of his depth, an arrogant Stewart used his power ring to trap Martian Manhunter in a bubble and send him away, telling him that he would only slow him down. Unfortunately, when Green Lantern got to the explosive, he discovered that it had been painted yellow, making him incapable of defusing it with his ring. It went off, and though the ring protected Stewart and Manhunter from the blast, the planet and all of its inhabitants were killed due to the Green Lantern's arrogance and carelessness. Martian Manhunter was understandably furious at Stewart, and the Green Lantern was obviously racked with guilt that never really went away. He certainly grew from the experience, but there are few things more devastating than failing to save an entire planet because you were overconfident in your own abilities. Any other devastating hero defeats we didn't have time to mention here? Let us know in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe for more Top 10 Nerd.